Hey guys, Mars Thinking here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so I've decided in the end that I am actually going to do the Extreme Super Battle Road guides as separate videos because I recorded the first couple and even halfway through the video is going to be over an hour long. So obviously, you know, even with timestamps being able to help you find the stage that you need to look at the guide for, that's obviously going to be super annoying. Very, very long video. So I feel like it probably is best to break it down into stages. So I'm going to record this generic intro that I'm then going to put in front of each one of the guides because I already recorded a lot of them, you know, expecting that I was going to put them together as one video, so they don't have their own proper intro. So most of them just start with me going, so next up this stage. So there's no proper actual video intro. So I'm going to record this as well as an outro that I can whack on the end. And we're going to put these in front of all of the guides. So between now and the time that the stages drop, which should be Tuesday evening in the US, Wednesday morning in the UK, all of these videos should be out in time for the stages to be released, so you guys can get some advice on teams for beating those stages. So I think I mentioned it in each one of the guides I recorded already anyway, but make sure you let me know for this particular video, for this stage, what your team build is going to be down below in the comments section. And if there's any units that you think I missed out that I should have talked about, let me know that down below and we can continue the discussion down there as well. So if you do find the guide helpful, do smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so next up is the guide for Future Saga. Now, this one definitely could be a little bit difficult for some people. Obviously, we are in the moment having a huge upgrade to the Future Saga over on JP, but this team has not really seen that many buffs for quite some time on global, so obviously well deserved that that category is finally getting a load of buffs with a whole bunch of new units and easy A's over on JP, but most of those are not going to be available on global. So I definitely could see this one being a little bit more difficult for some people. But of course, as always, there are ways that you're going to be able to get around this: smart item usage and good team building. So we'll go ahead and jump straight in. So we have the Tech Trunks is probably going to be one of the main leaders that people will be using. Future Saga, HP and attack 170, defense 130. He's not a great unit on turn 1. He doesn't really do a lot. 100% defense. No real super attack effect other than the beginnings of infinitely raising his attack. But then, of course, on the next turn, he transforms into a Super Saiyan. He then raises attack and defense on Super. So after even one super attack in this form, his defense is going to at least be somewhat decent. But he does build up over time, not just from the effect from his super, but also the fact that he gets additional 10% attack and defense at the start of each turn up to 80%. But obviously in Super Battle Road, you're never going to see this full buff. This is going to be one of those teams where more than likely he's just going to be there for the leader skill, and you're probably not going to run him on main rotation or anything like that. But, you know, he's not the worst unit in the world. He's just basically there to be the leader. Next up, we have the physical Future Gohan. So again, today when I'm recording this one, we know that he's getting an easy A on JP, and it's looking pretty damn good, especially when you have a Trunks on the team. So that would be a massive help for this stage for a lot of people, I'm sure. But he has a HP 130 and then attack and defense 170 leader skill. He raises attack and defense on super attack, and then basically the more turns go on, he builds up damage reduction. So again, he's not a unit that is super good on turn 1, which is just one of the reasons why this category struggles a little bit, because some of these units take time to build up, and Extreme Super Battle Road is not going to give you the chance to do that. So you definitely have to be careful using these guys. But he's obviously a good last resort choice as a leader if you do not have the Tech Trunks. I probably would use the Tech Trunks over this guy, obviously until he gets his easy A, but you know, that's months away for global. So next up we have the Int Future Gohan. Now, if you're missing the 2 previous units, it is possible to use this guy and just take advantage of the Hybrid Saiyans part of his leader skill to make a full future team, because obviously any Future Gohans, Trunkses, all those units are going to be on there. Bonder of Master and Disciple, there obviously aren't any future units who aren't already on hybrids, because most of them are just going to be Gohans or Trunkses, but you can make a decent team out of this guy's leader skill. He greatly raises defense on super attack, so he can be reasonably tanky, especially when your HP is 58% or less. He gets a 58% damage reduction, which is obviously really good. He also buffs Bond of Master and Disciple allies, key 1 attack and defense 30%, so he can be useful on the team even as like a third slot float if you're using a lot of Gohans and Trunkses on the team already. He also transforms as long as you have a Trunks on the team, starting from the 4th turn, transforms into a Super Saiyan, and then obviously just guarantees to have the damage reduction at that point. In Super Battle Road, by the time you get to turn 4, you're probably on the last or second to last turn, but definitely can still be a useful effect. He's going to do more damage. He has the guaranteed damage reduction, and in the first and second fight you do get an android enemy, so he is going to get a guaranteed additional super attack as well, so that could definitely be beneficial. Next up we have the LR Trunks and Mai. So this is an LR that currently in the state of the game very low on the tier list. They become, you know, they're not so good in most events, but this particular Super Battle Road stage, they definitely are going to have some solid use. I used them to do the no items run on the OG version before ESBR was the thing. And it basically comes down to their utility. So they have a medium chance to stun on their 12 key super, high chance to stun on the 18. They don't have a lot of defense. I mean, even with the team being a full time travelers team, they're only going to have 70% defense, which is not great. They do get 6 key and a 50% chance to dodge when there is a Future Saga category enemy. So the first and third fights are against Future Saga enemies. The second fight is against just a Cell on his own who is not part of the Future Saga. So they cannot dodge against the Cell in the second phase. So basically, if they don't get a stun off against him and you don't have an item active, he is going to absolutely demolish them. So RNG is going to play a huge factor, but for the first and third fight, whilst it obviously does still come down to RNG, they are going to be very useful because having that 50% chance to dodge, obviously you can get runs where they just dodge every single attack, and then you're firing off your super, potentially getting a stun. Stun, obviously very powerful in Super Battle Road, and even in that second fight, they can't get their dodge, but you're only going up against one enemy, so obviously the possibility to keep him stun locked is up there as long as you don't get completely screwed over by the RNG. So these guys definitely going to be useful on the team, but you just have to be very careful because if the stun RNG fails and then the dodge RNG fails or you're in the second fight, they're going to take a ridiculous amount of damage. So next up, we have Tech Vegeto, who obviously transforms into Vegeto Blue. For this team, for ESBR specifically, because of the build-up that the 5-year LRs need, he's probably best if you're going to bring him on this team as like a third slot unit, where he picks up that 50% chance to dodge by being in the third slot. And then he's still going to be able to put out a reasonable amount of damage. He also does get the guaranteed additional that has a medium chance to become a super. So, you know, it's possible for him to double super, deal some reasonable damage because he does raise attack on both supers. And then, of course, once you get to the 4th turn, he will transform into Vegeto Blue, where he gets a guaranteed additional super attack. And is obviously going to be dishing out quite a lot of extra damage. Still keeps that 50% chance to dodge if you're putting him in slot 3. And if you only have one enemy left who's at 50% HP or less from the next turn. So that's going to be like turn 6. Maybe in the last fight you'll see that because Zamasu and Goku Black do have quite a lot of health, but you might then get the opportunity to use the final Kamehameha active skill as a finisher to the fight. He does raise defense on both supers as well, so a little bit more tanky after super attacking once transforming, but again, I would probably use him as like a third slot floating unit on the team more so than anything, just because his defense is not super great, and you got to remember this is ESBR, so going to get hit pretty hard. So next up we have the other Vegeto Blue, the physical Easy A. He's a hit and miss unit because of the RNG. Obviously you don't want to put him in slot 1 because you want him to start getting off those supers and building up his defense, but he is one of those units that if the RNG swings in your favor, he can be really, really good because, you know, you put him in slot 2 or 3 and he gets off like 3 or even the godly 4 super attacks in one turn. He's going to have incredibly high defense. He's going to be clap him back with counter attacks that are going to deal very solid damage, especially if he's critting. Obviously, he's not really a unit that's designed to tank super attacks, so you have to be very careful about that. Like, he will get destroyed by a super attack, especially if it's before he's had a chance to attack. So he's another unit that is largely relying on RNG, but is going to be very strong in the right situation. He's got a very good link set as well. So, I mean, he's just a solid unit all around and definitely can be useful on this team, but RNG is always going to be a factor when you use this guy. So next up we have this STR Trunks. So this is one of the banner units released in 2021. He's very, very good. Even though he's from the first Broly movie, he is on the Future Saga category. And you're not going to be able to get his unit super attack because obviously there's no youth Gohans on the Future Saga. But even without having the unit super, he raises attack and defense in 1 turn, does supreme damage, medium chance to stun. So the stun chance definitely very useful, especially because he has a medium chance of launching an additional super. So if you have dupes or additional skill orbs, he could super attack 3 times in 1 turn, and each one of those is going to have the 30% chance to stun. And then he provides hybrid Saiyan allies 3 key and 40% attack and defense. This is obviously going to be super useful for all the other Trunkses that you have on the team, or Gohans. So very, very good, not only as a unit in and of himself, but as support for the other units that are going to be on the team. So this guy's definitely one of the top picks of the team, I think, unless you're going for a more extreme build, but very, very good. Next up, we have the LR Rose Goku Black. So I know everyone kind of memed on this guy when he first came out because Truth made a big deal about him being like the best unit in the game. And then people very much disagreed. He greatly raises defense on super, so he can be reasonably good defensively, especially as you are picking up more ki. His attack boosts. The problem is he also has this feature where you get the extra ki with each final blow delivered, which is, you know, you're unlikely to see this that often, especially because in this stage, the fights are 2 enemies, 1 enemy, and 2 enemies, so you don't really get a huge chance to use this to any sort of effectiveness, but in the end, it is only for extra ki, so I guess it's not the end of the world. He recovers 6% HP at the end of the turn in which you received an attack, which is nice, but obviously, again, this is extreme Super Battle Road, so you're going to be getting hit very hard by attacks, and 6% HP isn't exactly going to be a huge amount. Like, it's not going to be the same amount you got hit for, that's for sure. I should have mentioned him earlier, of course, though, because he is actually a Future Saga category leader, if you are missing any of the others. 4 key and 130 across the board. I've already said before in some of the other videos, I don't like using 130 leads, especially for really difficult content, but he is, of course, an option if you don't have any of the others. Obviously, you need to run him with other Goku Black units for him to actually get his link set to go off. He doesn't have prepared for battle, so he's not even super good to use with the other Saiyan units. So a little bit disappointing, but he can still be good. He obviously does have the Rage mode as well, but you can't use it until turn 6, so the chances of you being able to see this are pretty slim. Maybe in the last fight to finish off the last enemy, but other than that, you're not going to see this all that regularly. So next up, we have Gowasu and Zamasu. So they are a good support unit, 2 key and 70% defense to everybody. They have a 50% chance to dodge. They seal on super attack. They also get extra key and an attack buff when attacking extreme class enemies. All the enemies in this run are extreme, so basically they're going to auto super. They seal, which is obviously very useful, and then they have that dodge chance. The downside to them is, of course, if they don't dodge, they get destroyed, because as you can see from their passive, they don't actually have any base attack and defense, so they only have the 70% defense they get from their own support passive. So if they don't dodge, they're going to get hit very, very hard. This is a unit that I'm very excited to see what like a potential easy A for them could look like, because they could be really, really good, but until then, whilst they can be very useful in this stage, you have to be very, very careful about them taking hits, because if they don't dodge, especially like a type disadvantage attack, they are going to take a ridiculous amount of damage, so you have to be very careful. But the support is nice, sealing is nice, so they're a solid option to bring. You just have to get lucky with those dodges. Next up, we have the Int Easy A Super Saiyan Future Trunks. Post Easy A, he's obviously a lot better than he was before. He's not the craziest unit in the world because he's a nuker. He doesn't have any base attack and defense, so he gets attack and defense 20% per key sphere obtained. He does change STR orbs to Int. He also changes a random key sphere that isn't int or STR to rainbow when there's a Realm of Gods category enemy, so this will be effective in the last fight, so it makes him a little bit easier to get orbs. He also gets attacks effective against all types with 7 or more key spheres obtained, so he's a hit or miss unit. His RNG is a bit different to someone like Vegeto Blue, because obviously it's not reliant on whether or not these additionals go off. It's just completely reliant on what the orb field looks like, because if you have a rotation where the orbs are just really, really bad and you can only pick up like 1, 2 or 3 orbs for him, like his defense is going to be super, super low. So you got to be very, very careful if you're going to use this guy. But on the flip side, if you're able to pick up a lot of orbs, he's going to be able to get a solid attack stat. He gets attacks effective against all types if it was 7 or more, so he can do some solid damage. But you think even with 7 orbs, his defense is only going to be, what, 140%, which is good, but nothing too crazy. So he's a solid option, but more of an honourable mention than anything else. Next up, we have the Int Mai and the AGL Mai. Both of them are useful to bring solely because of their stun chance. AGL Mai, of course, not yet having her Easy A on Global. She has a 70% chance to stun, gives all allies 3 key, and then gives AGL allies an attack and defense buff, which is nice. There aren't going to be any other Peppy Gals allies unless you're bringing both the Mais. But all allies key +3 can be useful, especially for the LRs. 70% chance to stun is obviously really good. But again, if she doesn't stun, she will get absolutely destroyed. And then Int Mai is a time traveler support unit, so she is going to be supporting a large amount of the team. 2 key and 40%. She has a high chance to stun, which is only 50%. She also has a separate proc from her passive, which is a 50% chance to stun. That's only for the duration of that one turn, but can still be very useful. I think I used her in the OG version, because obviously the second fight against Cell was tech, and so if she didn't stun, she wouldn't take as much damage as the AGL one. But I do like the AGL one having the higher stun chance. So you can kind of choose between the two, or you can run both, but you just have to remember with both of them, if you're not getting the stuns, they are going to take a lot of damage. So this one overall may be better for the team because of the support, but the AGL one just has the higher chance to stun. And then next up, I thought I'd talk about the AGL Zamasu. He's aged not super well, unfortunately, but he is a decent enough option for the team. Recovers a little bit of HP. Just like the Trunks, he transforms on the next turn. And, you know, you got damage reduction, recovering HP, does immense damage. Like, he's decent. He's just unfortunately not super good anymore. And with how hard Extreme Super Battle Road hits, like having damage reduction but no actual base defense, he's still going to take quite a lot of damage. And then lastly, as an honorable mention, we have the AGL Rosé with his Easy A. He does greatly raise defense on Super, which is nice. And then he gets 30% defense with each attack received up to 180. So the problem with him, especially with no item active, is even after the first super attack, that first hit and potentially even the second hit are going to do a decent amount of damage. And if that first or second attack is a super, he's going to take a lot of damage. But he's obviously supporting the extreme class allies. But as you can see from a lot of the units we've talked about, the super, almost full super type team is probably most effective. So you guys will have to let me know what you think down below. But Future Saga, I mean, you can see from some of the units here, we're going to be getting some crazy Easy A's and buffs in the future. But as it stands now, this one probably going to be a little bit tricky for some people, but there are definitely some solid options you can run. So let me know what you guys think down below. Okay, there you go. So that is going to conclude this guide. Make sure, like I said at the start, you let me know down below if there's a unit that I didn't talk about or you think I should have talked in more detail about, and we can discuss that further in the comments, and let me know what your team is going to look like. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.